What's up, everybody? Welcome to the next installment of your favorite podcast, CEOs Wear Sneakers. You know me by now, Barney Waters, and I'm here to bring to you another inspiring person from the world of entrepreneurship and dig into their backstory and learn from them and apply it to our own hustles and our own businesses. And I'm joined today in the K-Swiss office by none other than Ajay Relan of Hashtag Lunchbag. Ajay, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me, Barney.
Great to have you here. And I was excited to have you come in because I know that you've got a few different things that you do in the entrepreneurship world, but one of the main pieces is really about giving back to the community, which is a first for us here. Usually we've got all the people here who are just out for the dollar, but you're actually different and you're actually trying to help people.
I'm out for the dollar too, but yeah,
Yeah.
No, but you do good and
you're
do well.
offsetting it.
Right.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the mission of Hashtag Lunchbag.
So, the mission of Hashtag Lunchbag is really, we just empower everyday people to take accountability and responsibility for their immediate surroundings. I believe that, or we believe as a movement that's now spread to over 150 cities globally, that everybody has the ability to make an immediate impact wherever they are. Kind of taking away the myth that you need to go join some great big effort or quit your life or make some type of economic sacrifice in order to do good. If you're aware of your immediate surroundings and you make a conscious effort to uplift everybody everywhere you go, it's just a part of who you are, the world automatically becomes a better place. That's kind of a 30,000 foot view.
Yeah, and I love it. And I think everybody probably would say, yeah, we know that, but very few people actually do it. I think that's the difference, is you're actually doing it. And by the way, 150 cities, I did not know.
Yeah.
That's
I feel
amazing.
like I just gave away my punchline for like the whole podcast.
So that's a wrap. We've enjoyed having you here. No, I mean, when you say people should be aware of their surroundings, we're in downtown LA, and were you born and raised in LA?
I was born in Detroit, but my mom and father split up. So my mom moved here when I was like 2. So I pretty much grew up in LA.
Yeah, so you're an LA kid.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are aware of your surroundings in LA, obviously you're seeing a lot of homelessness and a lot of you have to walk a block from where we are now, and it's Skid Row.
Right.
So when you say be aware of what's around you, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that,
like
if I go into, when we get there, or happy to jump in now, but when we get to like kind of the origin story of why Hashtag Lunchbag was even created, for me,
go for it.
For me personally, it was, kind of an immediate need that I needed to service for my own self. I was going through a bit of a personal, professional, transitional period, and I was essentially prescribed to go out and volunteer. It wasn't something that I was just doing, that was instilled in me from a young age. It's not something that I grew up doing in church per se. It was something more of a remedy to a temporary problem that I felt was a little bit, at the time felt a lot worse than it really was, right? So as I kind of went down that journey, trying different volunteer opportunities and eventually just kind of doing it myself along with my friends, and the easiest way to do is living in LA, you see an immediate need. These days it's more than ever, right? It's on every block, not just in downtown, but immediately thinking I don't need to join some great big effort in order to make an impact. The quickest and easiest thing I can do is feed somebody on the street. And unfortunately, there's a lot of those people. So when my friends and I decided to just start doing that act before there was even a Hashtag Lunchbag in mind, that's just what we did. We're like, what can we do? All right, we're going to feed people. Let's make it fun. Let's invite some friends over. Let's play some music. Let's drink some champagne. Let's drive around and just look for people that look like they could use a meal or some human interaction, right? Or some acknowledgement. Yeah. And second nature, we shared our experience on social media. We jokingly tagged it with the hashtag Lunchbag, just making fun of hashtags, and it rhymed with lunchbag. And then people started responding, right? Like we just shared what we had done that first time. I went to the grocery store, bought 100 meals worth of food. The things that went in the bag were basically things that I would have wanted to eat, and then the idea is like, let's feed people things we would actually want to eat. Prepared them, hopped in our cars, drove around LA, passed them out, documented it. And people started responding, calls, texts, emails, likes, comments. Never heard of this organization. When's the next time you're going to do this? And I'm, personally, no one had known why my intention was. But I'm
Right.
like, oh, well, I did this once. I feel great. I'm cured. Mental health issue. Check.
Done.
Yeah. Because that's not a fleeting feeling at all. And, especially as an entrepreneur. So yeah, we, out of just sheer, if it feels good, keep doing it. We had enough interest that we were like, let's do this again. So the following month, that would have been January 2013. I had about 10 people show up to our house. We made 200 meals.
Wow.
So doubled up. We doubled the number of people.
This is you putting your own money in
Yeah,
to
yeah.
buy the.
Well, the first time I put up all the money, I always joked, I'm like, how to start a global movement for $136.32.
Wow.
But then the second time everybody pitched in, same deal, shared it, put it up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We got some retweets from some people with some pretty big followings. And I'm like, shit. Now we have to make a website and just explain what it is.
Right.
So, we bought
What have I got myself into?
Yeah, but it's like so many, this person with like a few million followers retweets it. And I forget which show she was on. She was on like Desperate Housewives or something like that. I think that was like the show of the day. So we, just second nature, being an entrepreneur at the time, it's just like you just do things because you're used to it. So I'm like, I don't feel like explaining this. This is a fun social activity that we're just doing. As it's just an alternative to getting shit-faced on a Sunday, right? You can still do that, but do this in the morning. So you have a website that's basically some friends wanted to give back on a Christmas morning, waited too long to find an opportunity on top of having trouble identifying an opportunity, went to the grocery store. This is what they bought. Drove around, fed other people. Here's how you can do it on your own. Here's the step-by-step breakdown. Here's the shopping list. Here's the Spotify playlist. Here's, how to go about. Here's some rules, some safety things. And so at that point, after the second time, we said, this is something we want to do monthly. So the following month happened to be my birthday. And I wanted to make this my birthday party. And I own a pretty popular sports bar here in LA called the Parlor. And I'm like, no one's coming out on a Sunday morning to do, there wasn't football season or anything.
Yeah.
So let's just make this my birthday party and see how many people show up. We're going to make 1,000 meals, which is a big jump from 200. So 100 people show up. Now we have a sandwich making station where the rule is make a sandwich you would actually want to eat, or as if you want to make it as if you're making it for somebody that you love. Here's a love note writing station. Here's something. Gives you the opportunity to write something that you would want to read when you're having not such a great day. Yeah. Bagging station, we have a DJ, dance breaks, hug a stranger break, all these things that are just kind of just fun, social things, but like and then you have 100 people that share their experience on their personal platforms.
Of course, yeah.
And then, we're just doing this every month, searching the hashtag after every event, and then you start seeing events popping up in other cities.
So people are taking now the how to do it yourself things from the website and executing their own events.
Yeah, we provided them with the blueprint, just literally out of not wanting to answer, but like that's exciting. You create something, just like any entrepreneurial venture. You create something that other people like. You're going to want to talk to those people and help them experience it the way that it's meant to be experienced, right?
Yeah.
So 9 months later, 40 cities in, just all through the power of social media, not doing anything really beyond doing our monthly thing and answering some emails and jumping on the phone or responding to some DMs. We realized we were kind of onto something, but but we didn't really know what we were doing or why we were doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
but it felt good.
Yeah,
and it was undeniably good. So we rolled with it.
Yeah, I love it. And so the 40 cities that are people who are following your instructions, they're calling theirs hashtag Lunchbag.
Yes.
Just you're saying, hey, anyone wants to do it, anyone can use that name.
This is for everybody. So hashtag Lunchbag San Diego.
Is it still that same way?
Yeah. Hashtag Lunchbag New York. Hashtag Lunchbag
whoever
Chicago.
wants to jump in.
It's an open platform.
I love it.
Yeah.
And you're still actively involved in the LA piece.
Yeah. So we, fast forward, enough people, you're doing something good. Enough people ask you, are you a nonprofit? Are you a nonprofit? You're doing something good. You have to be a nonprofit. I'm like, I don't even know what a nonprofit is, but everybody's telling me or asking me. So, let's file for that, I guess.
Sure.
So as you're thinking through your mission, I didn't particularly have a passion to solve for hunger. Not that I think it's stupid and there's no reason why it should exist. I don't have a particular passion to solve homelessness, but it's another thing that I think is ridiculous and shouldn't exist. And I was really thinking about, from a mission standpoint, why do we exist, right? We're not ending hunger. I'm not ending homelessness. And then I started going back to the original thing that kind of brought me to the table, even though this was a collective effort. My reasoning was there was something missing inside of me that I needed to service. And then as I started talking to more of these, I call every city leader an OG, an original giver. As I was talking to all these, developing a relationship with all these other leaders, I realized that, we live in a time where we're more connected than ever, but we're more disconnected from a lot of the things that previous generations needed to be. And, what Hashtag Lunchbag really was a gateway to giving. And giving, as I kind of think about it now in my for-profit businesses, is kind of like the key ingredient to not only living being successful, but living a happy life, right? If you're coming from a place of service, of a place of contribution, you share a collective vision and you have a collective goal with the people that you're working with, no matter what that project or the goal that you're trying to hit is. So we pretty quickly realized that we created something that was fun, very culturally relevant, cool, easy, as a way to just kind of trick people into coming to that realization that you can really, your true life is, when you're at your fullest potential, you're in a place where you're doing things for people without expecting anything in return. So this is just a carrot. It's just a way in. So we ended up calling the nonprofit Living Through Giving. It's exciting. We just reframed our mission statement. So it's connecting humanity to create organized acts of love. So Hashtag Lunchbag is a vessel for that. And we realized that the different buckets that we impact are homelessness, whether it's from awareness or food insecurity, mental health, because that for me is I think that's the most prevalent issue, which is really hard to measure. It's something that's kind of become a bit of a buzzword, but I believe that everybody that has a smartphone or an Instagram account has some level of mental health issues, just because of the consequences of, looking at other people's highlight reels and comparing them.
So there's a ton to unpack in what you've said here, and I'm going to attempt to do some of it because I think it's fascinating. But it sounds like Hashtag Lunchbag, the event, is almost as much for the people who are giving as it is for the people who are receiving.
Absolutely.
First of all, that's what I picked up from what you're saying, and I never would have really thought about that. Whenever I've done something, it's always just my perspective is I'm doing it for the person, not for the community of givers, and you can bring those people together. That's fascinating. And I want to step back real quick to who was it that prescribed giving to you for your situation? Was it a medical professional?
It was my therapist.
Okay. Yeah, because it's not a normal.
No. It was like, you go see my psychiatrist friend and get some antidepressants, or give this a shot.
And you were struggling with depression at the time?
Yeah. I mean, I think that depression is something that runs in my family. I've had more than a handful of friends take their own lives, people that had similar personalities like me in a very short period of time. Growing up, my mother was suicidal, and I'm an only child to a single mom, so that could have been potentially devastating. And then I think that, just being a lifelong entrepreneur, it kind of comes with the territory, right?
You think there's a correlation? Explain that relationship between mental health and entrepreneur. Do you think that's sort of the same genes in there somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of shared traits. On one hand, it's you could say it's chemical, or it's hereditary, or things that's just learned behavior from what you've seen. But I think that when you're an entrepreneur, you're really at risk for it, because ultimately, everything's on you. If something's not working, if something that you thought, that you doubled down on didn't go through, if there was a certain investment opportunity that you passed up on, or if there's just so many. The analogy that I always laugh at is like being an entrepreneur is like being a duck, right? On the surface, you have to look cool, but underneath, you're kicking like a motherfucker, right? So, and a lot of that, that fast-paced, especially when you're in hustle mode and you're hustling and you're trying to make shit happen and you're trying to, and like I think the more seasoned you get and the more entrepreneurial ventures you do, or the more years you get under your belt and experience overall, you tend to know that it's coming, right? And then you want to take better care of yourself. So this is one aspect of how I service my own humanity to keep the mission, no matter what project it is. But it helps really center you and ground you.
Yeah, I think it's really important to this sort of the perception of success, which we're all aiming for. A lot of people are aiming for, whether it's, and usually that's career success or financial success, is in order to be holistically successful, it's happiness and is so important, and health, and that it's a 360 view of success, not just like, hey, I'm a CEO and I've got $1 million in my bank account, but I'm fucking miserable and feel terrible because I'm eating shitty food and never exercising. So
absolutely.
I think this idea of a holistic approach is super important. It's interesting to ponder whether the entrepreneur mentality is more or less susceptible to depression or anxiety. I don't know the answer to that. I know I myself have struggled with anxiety. That's my poison, or has been. I mean, it's pretty under control at this point in my life, but it's taken me a lot of work and training to get to a point where, I'm cool with it, and it is what it is. But it's definitely been a factor in my drive, both positively and negatively. So positive is, hey, I've worked my ass off and got myself to some good places. Negatively is my mind's always whirring and spinning, and that's not always good. So now I've got a point where I've been able to calm that all down. So for you, and I notice you have the tattoo on your...
Yeah, actually I have two.
Yeah, this is the semicolon.
The semicolon. Are you familiar?
I know of it. I don't know I couldn't explain.
So there's a few different things. I mean, the semicolon, it's kind of become, I just spontaneously got these the other day. These are my first two tattoos.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, there's the semicolon has kind of become like the bat signal for mental health. It's most common, I believe, amongst suicide survivors. So It's not like your story's not over, it's to be continued. So my idea here was, anytime you're dealing with any type of mental health issue, just remember to spread love and you'll be good. So this has kind of become synonymous for me, just from a brand mark standpoint. Yeah, it's like hashtag spread things, and love is a universal symbol. I mean, hearts are the universal symbol for love. So at our core, we've created this inclusive atmosphere. The beautiful thing for me, and when we started this back in 2012, the world wasn't as divided as it is, at least our world here, as it is, or at least as openly divided. Yeah. So now more than ever, we just had our January kickoff event this past weekend, and to see 150 people show up, all different backgrounds, all different colors, ages, tax brackets, all in this idea of, being forced to be grateful, being forced to be present. You meet a lot of people. You meet a lot of students or startup founders or people that are just, in this place where they're kind of taking a time out really for themselves.
Yeah, I just sort of blown my mind a bit, this idea that you're doing it, the 150 people there are getting some input to their souls as much as the people they're feeding, and yeah. I love that idea. How many events do you think you've had or have influenced at this point, including all these cities that are doing it? Do you have any idea?
It's funny. I just hired my first full-time person a month ago, so a lot of the data escapes us. I mean, we estimate, I think we had like 400 events last year, majority of them independently organized, yeah. Whether it's a corporation. So we've done a ton of corporate events that, whether it's like the Golden State Warriors when they won the 2015 championship, fed 20,000 people under the hashtag Lunchbag banner out of the Oakland Convention Center. Lyft for a whole year when they were launching new cities would take that initial pool of drivers and introduce them to each other to feed the need in the local community.
So they would do an event as new drivers.
Yeah, we just did something at Nike. We just did, all these different boo. Sorry, I was like, fuck. But yeah, we were doing all these different companies are starting to see the value in creating employee engagement, team morale building. We did a huge Super Bowl commercial with Wells Fargo in 2014.
Yeah, right? That's right. How did that come about?
It's funny. I had a friend of mine from high school had called me from an ad agency. Said, "Hey, been a while." No, she didn't call me. She Facebook messaged me. That's how long it had been since we had talked. She goes, "Hey, we should grab coffee sometime. Come to my office." I'm like, "All right." So I go to her office. Coffee was inside of a giant conference room.
50 suits staring at you.
Literally, and I'm just sitting there stoned, drinking a cup of coffee, and I'm like, hey, I thought it was just us. So, they couldn't be, I could tell they didn't even know. She was like, kind of like putting herself out there for this idea. She goes, hey, we have this client, she's explaining this to me, and they're all just kind of intently waiting for me to why are they here? And like we have this client, it's a big finance institution. They're launching a new mobile banking app. The messaging is that we want, done is the tagline. We want to show that millennials get it done. I thought that your story had a nice twist on it. Would you mind sharing, what brought you here? And this was still pretty early, so I still didn't even understand why I was doing everything that I was doing. I was just like, this is fun. It's undeniably good. It gives me the ability to use my social capital for something that is a little bit different than myself, and quite frankly, anybody that I know would have used that for. Yeah. And by the end of it, half the, one lady's crying. Yeah, somebody out there at the table is like, my kid does that in Cleveland, or I saw that on my friend's Instagram in New York. And then they opened up, and then, those types of things take forever to happen. But the following week, they're like, this is the creative. We want you guys to be in the commercial. We want to donate to your organization. And that was really the seed money that we got to at least do what we were able to do in the beginning.
Was there an immediate reaction after the Super Bowl?
I mean, it was just that thing ran for 2 years. So,
Is that right?
And then that's when I was like, man, I should have been a commercial actor, because I worked 2 days and this is all right. But yeah, that it just creates awareness. But honestly, and this kind of goes back to it's consistency, right? It's not like you do something one time and wait for something to happen. This is something I do. I wake up at once a month at least, just for the event. I wake up, I go to the grocery store, I go shopping, I meet up with my friends, I create a space for 150 people to show up to make 1,500 meals in a 2-hour period, then go to Skid Row and pass them out and come back for brunch, every month. And through that, other people through the power of social media and the internet, people always see it and get inspired and want to do it.
I love the honesty about how it wasn't really, you weren't set out to feed the world or on some great mission. It was a little self-serving, and it's grown, and it is a cool event. I mean, it's undeniable. It's cool. The branding is good. The vibes are good at the event from what I've seen. I know a bunch of our people here have been and attended frequently, in fact, and it's undeniably a cool brand you've built. How much of your energy now in your life is what sort of percentage is going towards this versus your other businesses?
I mean, I'm all in on everything. So right now I'm in the hospitality stuff. I'm currently working on kind of consolidating my life. So my common thread is this has kind of become my guiding light, my North Star, in the way that I kind of think about everything. I'm not in a position where I'm able to spend all my time on it. I wish I could. I've developed a small and mighty staff that kind of runs point. We have a weekly meeting. We get on calls. I do some of the corporate conversations just because a lot of them are my personal relationships in order to kind of help everybody achieve their objectives. But, I think this is kind of this is something that it's always going to be a part of my life. And I was lucky enough to realize, it wasn't on my deathbed after I accumulated all this shit that I was like, I wish I really did more for other people.
Yeah.
I had a moment when I was 28, and I get to say that now I have tens of thousands of people across the world giving in the name of Hashtag Lunchbag and living through giving. And I can't tell you all the stories that we've gotten. And
it's incredible. Have you now become more? Is there more of a sense of mission in you now to give? When we said you originally took it on, this idea, it was for your own personal therapy.
Yeah.
Have you become more of that kind of giving person now?
Yeah. I mean, I think my core, I've always been down to help. I always go above and beyond, sometimes at my own detriment or to a fault. To if I've got it, you've got it kind of mentality. Yeah. Anybody that's a friend of mine or has worked with me can attest to that. But I think for me, it's become more forward facing in that I see the way the world is going. I see the way that brands are going. I see the need to want to have if you're trying to cultivate a new audience that's younger, they just give a shit more.
100%.
And they don't, and the shit that my generation and before started to value, they don't care about that anymore. It's not about ownership, it's about experiences, and it's about community, and it's all social. I think for the first time in the history of the world, we all have the ability to reach tens of thousands of potentially millions of people with relatively little effort. And, you can quickly change people's perception about their role in the world or educate them on something that they don't know about very easily. Whereas, you know, if you look at movements before, whether it's some kind of civil rights, you know, the impact that those have made on the course of history with a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of, you know, work, I think that, you know, our generation has the potential to do that a lot quicker just by
no question.
getting people to give a shit.
Yeah, no question. And how much of the, you know, how many people are making sandwiches with one hand and taking a selfie or a video of them doing it with the other? It's like,
I mean, hopefully everybody, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's good for spreading,
Yeah.
but you know, these days, people almost like need content for the feeds, you know,
Yeah.
like me going to Hashtag Lunchbag and be like, hey, check me out, is like, I'm going because I need the content.
I used to struggle with that in the beginning because I would,
You shouldn't really care.
Pretty
It's like-
good. Well, in the beginning, I'm like, look at all these people. And this person, they're not even here to give. They're just here because there's hot girls or cute boys or, you know, like, and then, you know, somebody said, like, I would get irritated. I'm like, why isn't everybody just here for the purest purposes?
Yeah.
And then I thought about it. I'm like, who gives a shit, right? I mean, these people are here, right? They're putting forth the effort and the energy. As long as their intent isn't malicious, doesn't matter. I don't have time to think about the work's getting done. Everybody feels like they have a stake in something good that happened, and my only hope is that they leave with some form of inspiration to want to continue that.
Yeah.
You know, in whatever other, whether it's in their workplace, at home, at school, whatever.
Yeah, I also love the fact that you aren't trying to control it. You know, it's spreading like water. You know, and you're not trying to fence it in and go, hey, you can license my brand if you want to do the Detroit version. It seems like you're putting it out there. And
as far as just spreading love, it's open source.
are you the same? You said you're very giving in your regular life, so
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your other businesses, because this is not your only gig. You're a restaurateur, and is the sort of entertainment or nightlife or restaurant business always been your thing?
No, so I actually started off in entertainment. I still work in entertainment. Kind of been in every production, whether it's talent. I even worked in venture capital for a little while with some talent, and then now I'm kind of more on the marketing branding side. But marketing and branding has always kind of been my foundation, and for me that's exciting because you can apply it to literally anything, whether you're opening a restaurant or selling some shoes or getting people to make lunch bags.
Yeah, so the Parlor and the other restaurant you have is the Hilltop.
Yep.
What is that, Coffee and Kitchen?
Yep.
Did I get that right? Where is that?
So Parlor is on Melrose. It's been there for 10 years. Crazy to say that.
You opened it?
I did not open it.
Okay.
I bought it in 2012.
Yeah.
And 2012
What was it
was
before?
A big year. It was called the Parlor. So we had my now partner and I met because I was a patron there and he was a manager.
Let's buy this place.
Well, he was really pushing it. I was like, I have no desire to be in the restaurant business, but it got me on a good day, and I was like, this could be the #1 sports bar in LA. And fast forward, we are.
It is number one.
It is.
50 TVs, I understand.
52 televisions. We just opened our location at LAX in the Delta Terminal 3.
You've got one at LAX?
Yeah.
Wow.
And now we're finally looking to grow out of our single street side location. But it was interesting because the Parlor, being able to having that, created space for something like Hashtag Lunchbag,
Right.
and creating just many memorable nights or events or helping people celebrate or promote or market or whatever. But Hilltop is really a natural progression of that. So my partner Yoni and I were kind of looking to expand our restaurant business with a new concept, and we started looking at all these markets that everybody looks at, and we both grew up in and around Inglewood, and we said, why do we keep trying to expand our business in these high rent, highly competitive areas? Why don't we take proven concepts and go to a place that not only deserves to have something better than a McDonald's or a fried chicken spot, but why don't we create something with a little bit of care with our operation?
Is that where you grew up, Inglewood?
I grew up when I first moved here.
Up to no good?
Up to some good now.
Paul Pierce,
Yeah.
that's my man from the Celtics.
Little Mac 10. Fast forward, last August we opened Hilltop. We thought about what did we want to do. So we're like, let's do something a little bit different than what we're doing now. Coffee, there's definitely more than enough coffee shops in Los Angeles, but surprisingly in the areas that we were looking at, we just were operating under an assumption that there was a demand for just better quality ingredients. But on top of that, with this spirit of giving, we wanted to make sure that we integrated that into our employee culture. So we hired from the local community. We paid above minimum wage. We teach leadership and entrepreneurship through entry level employment. And then the coffee shop really serves as a community hub for local creatives and entrepreneurs.
Amazing. Don't you add a service fee as well?
We do, yeah. We we started
community.
seeing that a lot, around a lot of the restaurants. It kind of become really common at a lot of the places that we frequent up here. But we thought, why not apply that here and give people the option to add an additional service fee to help us,
But isn't that going to the community, or it's going to the workers who
it's
are
going
from
to our employee pool?
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps us pay them a better wage.
Yeah.
Because minimum wage is.
And is it in like a rough part of town that wouldn't get a Starbucks?
Yeah. So there was a Starbucks. The Starbucks shut down. So the first area that we opened in is a place called View Park, Windsor Hills. It's actually a hop, skip, and a jump away from some roughness, but View Park itself is actually the wealthiest African American community in the United States.
Really?
Yet there's nowhere to eat. Everybody that I know that lives in, and it's rapidly changing, of course, just because everyone is moving south. There's a stadium being built, so the demographics are changing. But we thought, why not create something that could serve the incumbent population, but also understanding that demographics are shifting here, and people are going to demand better products. So we led with the mission, but our menu is chef driven. And we're in the process of building our next 2 locations, and we should have 5 by the end of the year.
And where are the next ones going to be?
The next one's the second location is going to be our flagship location. It's going to be in downtown Inglewood. So that's going to be probably our biggest one. And then our third one will be in Eagle Rock. Yeah, and then we're looking for our next 3. But yeah, the whole idea from a brand standpoint, the Hilltop is a metaphor for everyone's goals, everyone's obstacles, all the things that you're looking to achieve or overcome on a daily basis. So our whole tagline is, come grab some coffee for your climb.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great. And in fact, we did an event there, full disclosure. Patrick hosted a entrepreneur
dinner series. Yeah, actually, Patrick and I co-hosted it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so we Hilltop catered it. We had about 20 amazing entrepreneurs from all over LA, and we just broke bread, talked about being an entrepreneur, how cool it looks, how hard it is.
Great feedback from that event.
Yeah, it was great.
They said you gave people questions that it forced them to come out and, hey, open your envelope and answer the question that
it's really
got people talking.
Creating a safe space where people have the opportunity to be vulnerable, because 10 times out of 10, if you're sitting at a table with entrepreneurs, somebody can relate. You know, it's just interesting, not just entrepreneurship, but just the idea of mental health in general. We all feel, inside, when we're just, the little voice in our head is telling us that, all the bad shit, and then how different we are, and how, you're a social leopard, you're angry,
and everybody else is doing so great.
No, everyone, we're all the same. Everything is fucked up. Just let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Are you create any forums for that yourself? Are you sort of advocating for that in any way, the mental health thing?
I think that I've gotten more comfortable talking about it myself. So I think that's, at least in the conversations that I have, Hilltop has been great, because a lot of our alternative programming after hours are things like open mic nights. We just had a women's meetup. We do mental health journaling. We do book club meetups. So just anything that's around this idea. So you definitely are doing stuff. Yeah. So the idea is to create. It's all, I if I were to just summarize what it is that I do, you could call me a community organizer, I guess. But the way I define it across the board is I just feed people.
Yeah. Any sort of visions of government, politics, anything like that in your future?
You mean in terms of getting involved?
You just seem like you'd be a perfect
Yeah, it's funny. My father-in-law
Kind of
was like, "When
candidate
he
for
decides," or I'm like, "It's not something that I really." It's. I get a lot of jokes about that. Like, "Oh, when are you gonna run for mayor?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't want to get shot."
I don't
Seems like
know.
a lot of
Well,
work.
I got a friend who's running for mayor of Pasadena.
Okay.
Major Williams, shout out to you.
All right.
Um,
I'll vote for him.
Going
If
for it.
I don't live in Pasadena,
Just,
but
yeah,
if I
just,
could,
I
vote
just
for him.
appreciate that he's gone for it, and he
Yeah.
said, "Hey, I'm gonna make a difference and go for it." I appreciate you being open and honest about mental health. I think that it's losing its stigma. It's funny you said it was a buzzword earlier. I'm going to ask you about that in a minute. I've tried to be open about it because I've learned that it makes it worse if you don't talk about it. If you try and hide it, it's twice as bad. If you are open about it, everybody's cool, everybody's helpful, people don't hold it against you. And so I think the more people who are open and saying, "Hey, I'm in a great position and I'm still here and I've worked through this and I'm achieving things and so are you."
Yeah.
It's positive. You need to do that. We should all do that and be more honest about it. So I think that's a great thing you're doing. Not a lot of people are doing that. Right. And yeah, when you said it was a kind of a buzzword right now, do you just mean it's getting more, less
getting
stigma?
more burned, but I think that, like the more, you turn on the news, you see all kind of terrible things going on, right? And, people are, after any school shooting, there's like, oh, we really need to, it's gun violence, and it's like, we need to really step up on this mental health thing. But it's like, I look at mental health as the same way I look at physical health. It's like, you want to look good, you want to feel good, you got to exercise, you got to eat good.
Yeah.
You want to, you want to be psychologically and mentally sound. You have to, you have to be mindful. You meditate, journal, talk to people, be open, be vulnerable, volunteer, do something, contribute.
A lot of podcasts out there as well that will help.
Yeah.
A lot of podcasts of all sorts of motivation or lessons or thought starters.
Yeah, but but even more beyond that. Like, I think there's so many great books and podcasts, but like opportunities to actually take action and contribute your time and experience it. Right. I mean, I love podcasts just as much as but it's like you need a practical application for it in order for you to, maybe feed I always say we're feeding two different types of hunger. We're putting food in people's mouths, but we're also feeding a deeper hunger that we innately have inside of each and every one of us, which is to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely right. And let's go back for a second then to your beginnings. So were you always an entrepreneur from the start, or you came out just with that mindset?
Yeah.
Were you a hustler as a kid?
Yeah.
Talk about some of that.
Yeah, my mom, she's, I remember when she started a business out of our 1-bedroom apartment ever since I can remember. So I was always kind of helping her. So I was like, when other kids were playing or doing Little League, I'm like, oh, I want to go ride bikes with my friends. She goes, do you want to eat? And I'm like, all right, well,
Get to
whatever
work.
you want me to do. And then
What was she doing? What was the
so my mom's side of the family is from India. So she has no formal education. She was trained to be a housewife, cooked, all that stuff. And, she kind of had to come here and figure it out. So, her brother, my uncle from India, would ship her Bollywood movies. And she took an ad out in the Yellow Pages and dubbed herself the Bollywood blockbuster. And she would rent these movies out to people that just wanted.
From the apartment?
Wow. Yeah, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the safest thing. But then kind of graduated. People would want to transfer stuff. And then, fast forward, she grew it into a pretty a boutique post-production facility. And that's what put me through high school, college, But like through that, I remember when my first actual personal foray was I was 6, and I had asked my mom for a pair of shoes. And I really wanted them because all my friends were getting them. And she's like, if you want some shoes, you got to work for them. And I'm like, well, what does that even mean? I work for you and you don't pay me shit, So I busted open she's like, you got to figure it out. Buy something, sell it for more than you bought it for. The difference between the two is your profit, and then keep doing that until you have enough for what it is that you want to get. And I was like, okay. So the first thing I thought of is, which is a typical kid's hustle, is like I went to the store and I bought some candy. And then I went to school and I sold the candy. And then I kept reeing up until the point where I had enough money to get what I needed to get. And then I applied that, from that point on. So
good early lesson.
Yeah. Selling candy out of my locker up until high school. sold some other stuff that, I don't know if I can talk about on this podcast. And then I put myself through college slanging, having purse parties at sorority houses.
Oh yeah, you were putting parties on. Is that your?
Yeah. I mean, purse parties. So I'd buy purses and sell them to the sorority girls at their weekly meetups, which checked a lot of boxes for a young co-ed like myself. So you
were really like out there on the streets hustling.
Yeah. Oh, I've spent a lot of time.
You're not a tech bro entrepreneur here. You're like the real one.
Yeah. I mean, I was at a certain point you realize that, whatever you're slanging out of the trunk of your car isn't really a sustainable or a scalable business, right? If you have bigger aspirations. So, when I graduated from school, I think I graduated to more sustainable businesses.
Yeah. And now is the restaurants your main?
No. So, I mean, it's certainly taking up a good chunk of time, which is exactly what I want, because I think we've developed a really solid team of talented managers, operators, marketers to kind of execute the vision. So, there's other concepts that we have brewing with similar rollout plans, and teams of investors that have really liked our mission and see the value in developing a bulletproof brand in the food and beverage industry. And as long as we keep delivering on the product.
So you think there's more in the pipeline, and people are sort of looking at you, hey, what do you got coming next?
Yeah, that's what we're working through right now. So we have some really cool opportunities in that space. And then, I worked in tech for a while. I wouldn't say I was a tech bro. I was more on the investment side, but you really get to sit and meet some really smart people and learn how they think about not just their industry, but their worldview.
Yep.
And I think the more people that you interact with, the more, you get to form continue to reform your own worldview, and now you can apply that and, all the cool stuff that kind of comes along with that.
Yeah. So tell us, I want to get a bit of advice from you, or at least, there's two real angles. One is your success in the restaurant business. For people who are trying to get started in that, you think that's still a good place to make a stand as an entrepreneur, is food and beverage?
No, actually, I would say that
tough
food
way to
and
make
beverage is probably the hard. I wouldn't actually recommend anybody to go into food and beverage. I think that there's a lot of different business. I mean, if you really have to have a passion for food and beverage to be in the restaurant or the hospitality business. Right. Definitely a good business. It's a grind, man, and it's like you gotta. Just one of those things. I would argue, and I've been in a lot of businesses. I still advise a few different tech companies or entertainment startups. And everything's hard. Nothing's easy. But food and beverage is really hard. And if you don't have and I guess you can make that argument for anything. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I answered your question or if I just scared a bunch of people away.
Well, there's it's always good to get a dose of reality of what things are out there.
Anything worth doing is hard as shit.
Yeah. And then how do people get involved in Hashtag Lunchbag? Because that's a good one. I'm sure people are going to be inspired after hearing this to want to get involved.
No, for sure.
Tell them what they need to do.
So yeah, I think that there's a few different ways that people can get involved. If you go on our website and you go to Hashtag Lunchbag, the word hashtag spelled out.com, there's a Get Involved section. You can see if there's an event or a chapter in your local community. You can create your own chapter. If you want to create your, if you want, we're now developing programs for like junior high school, colleges as like clubs. If you work for a small business or a large corporation, it's a great way to kind of get your teams connected under an alternative form of programming. Sure. So there you can click there. There's some information, and we can have a conversation about what that looks like. And then right now, our big focus, now that we're bringing people on board in official capacity, is really looking for the right partners to kind of underwrite our entire organization, just so we can build the capacity to spread more love.
Yeah. And then where do you think you see this thing going? Do you have a 5-10 year vision?
Yeah, I never have a really five. I mean, I used to actually feel bad. I'm like, damn, am I the only person that doesn't have a 5-year plan? Because everything can kind of change in 5 minutes. But I think the way that the real opportunity that I see with what we've built is, on top of having my faith in humanity restored, seeing so many people of so many different backgrounds, taking time out of their busy schedules away from their families and to create such amazing experiences for their local community. I can't help but, once we kind of crack the code on how to streamline all of those things, because it's still a business at the end of the day, there's operations, there's things that you need to track and report. And I would love to find a way to create one giant global community that kind of, from a grassroots standpoint, has each other's backs. So if I live in LA and somebody's going through something in Chicago, I have this, or Amsterdam or whatever, it's just this community of givers. And I want to find a way to, I believe that if we get more people to come from a place of compassion, kindness, empathy, that automatically makes you more, in tune with your immediate surroundings. And the more people that kind of adopt that mentality, a lot of the terrible shit in the world just
world to be a better
stops on
place.
its own because people give a shit.
Yeah, remind us of the mission now of Hashtag Lunchbag.
Connecting humanity to create organized acts of love.
There you go, acts of love. And if you want to get involved, hopefully we've given you some motivation and some inspiration to get involved, and how you can get involved, either doing your own thing or through Hashtag Lunchbag, which is an amazing organization run by a very inspirational person we've introduced you today in Ajay. Also, catch a beer at the Parlor or coffee at the Hilltop.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be doing more events with you in those places as well. And really been a mind opener here, especially talk about mental health, how important that is for the 360 view of each of us as people who are trying to make it and try and make something of ourselves. Don't just focus on the finances, but focus on health and overall well-being, and think of other people around you. And I think Ajay has probably inspired a lot of us to think about that today. So we really appreciate it. Appreciate having you here. And with that, we will wrap this up and say thank you to Ajay, and we'll catch you on the next one.